The journey is all about learning more about our hounds, making things better, and making us better. The more time we spend with our dogs, the more we learn about them, and the more we learn about ourselves. Today, we are going to recap our training season here in Virginia. We're going to talk about our early season, our youth season, and our youth day. Let me say that it wasn't a season. And then we're going to do a short pup update and kind of let you guys know where the pups are at. They're 7. They're 7 months old, getting ready to turn 8. So we didn't hunt them too much, but we did get them out, and a couple of them got started. But today, I am here with two of my good friends and hunting cohorts. I'm here with Wes Shaky Hand Woodyard, and it depends on how you want, what time of year it is. It's either Forest, we call him Marv off of Home Alone because he's hair, or we call him White Earp because he's got to have that gun a-blazing. So it don't matter what time it is, but that's his two nicknames. Everybody's got nicknames, I guess. I think they're going to start calling me Grumpy, like off the 7 Dwarfs. But I'm here with Wes and Forest, and we're just going to recap and talk about hunting season and where we're at, where we're going, where we want to be. And I don't think any of us is where we want to be. So, Wes, why don't you start? Just tell everybody how you got into hounds and how long you've been doing it.
So I guess it really all started for me back in early 2000s. I ran around with Heath then. He had some dogs, and I didn't have any dogs. I was still in high school. I was just trying to figure it all out. You know, that his name came up a lot, and I said, well, let's go try this out. So that's where it all started for me. You know, my interest in hounds. I actually didn't own any hounds until about 5-6 years ago. So I still don't own any hounds, but I've got a few dogs.
What kind of... So, and I was thinking about it. I think you were probably with me. I mean, I remember I was working in Withville, and that's when you come over and started hunting, and then we hunted up behind Dad some. That may have been late 90s, 2000.
Yeah, the 2000 year sticks out for me. It may have been sooner. You know, things fly by and you just lose track of time. But maybe it was sooner. But I definitely know the 2000 year was.
Mm-hmm. You were actually with me on the last bear that my old Frosty dog treed. We went into
Clendenin,
mm-hmm. And
I know what it did.
Yep.
But
that was the last bear he treed. He died about a month after that. He had lymphoma. He died at 8 years old, and that was devastating for me. I mean,
sure.
You know, young as I was, and he was the first dog that I actually had that would actually catch bear, and he done it by himself, which at that time, you know, I knew I had a dog that catch bear, but you don't understand the relevance of it until you start learning more and seeing more and understanding things. But I almost quit after that. That's how hard it hit me. And then, you know, you guys have heard me talk about Ring. Ring was a 2, maybe under 2 a little bit. And I had him and my little blue female Belle. Had a dog named Smokey that Glenn Price had given me that was out of their stuff. Then Smokey had went back to some of Frosty's parents and grandparents. I can't remember what else I had at the time. I hadn't bought Sam yet, so I didn't have him. But yeah, I mean, it was hard on me. But you were with me at that last tree he made.
Yeah. He had a few more after that. You know, he spoke a Ring, and I know the trials and tribulations that dog put you through, but you know, he made a nice dog.
Yeah, he caught bear. I mean, it was a headache doing it, but he caught him. And then Belle, and yeah. So, but what? I wasn't around when you started back hunting or started hunting. What kind of dogs did you get? What got you flipped around to where you wanted to do that?
Honestly, I'm really not sure. You know, I've seen some stuff on Facebook and saw a page, and that's kind of where it all got fired back up. You know, you and I hadn't talked for a little bit, and I came over that day. You had a litter out of Jill and
Charlie.
Charlie, up. And I bought one of those dogs. And at that point, I went to Stanton. You know, I was traveling trying to find some dogs. These weren't credible dogs. I wanted dogs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wanted to feel like I was trying to figure it out. But these weren't dogs that we would own now.
Right. But just getting started, you didn't know.
No. No. I knew, you know, that's what's so weird for me. I knew what a good dog was, but I didn't know how to get it. And I didn't have anyone to, you know, turn that switch for me. You know, now we've got some guidance, you know, with you and, you know, Forrest sitting here and Sam. We've got some guys that can catch some bear and they know what a dog is, and you see them work. But at that point, I had no clue what I was doing. I just want a dog.
I think we all start that way.
Yeah.
Clueless. Mm-hmm. Maybe that should be the title of the podcast. Clueless. Because we all start that way. So Forrest, like I said, I know you and I have been around and hunted for years, together, not together. When I moved, you know, like I said, when I moved to Withville, I hadn't seen you probably in 10 or 12 years, and then we kind of happened to get back together once I moved back down this area. So tell us your story. Tell us what got you into it. Tell us I know what you started with, but tell the listeners what kind of got you cranking there.
So, my dad, when I was little, he used to rabbit hunt with some guys. We'd rabbit hunt during the day, and then got coon hunting at night with a guy. And then one day, Bert and them asked my dad if we wanted to try bear hunting. And this was, I'd say, the middle 90s, somewhere in there. And I thought coon hunting and it was going to be the same as bear hunting, and it wasn't. But so we started bear hunting with him. And at that time, we only had a month of training season and a month of kill season. But
well, you remember what years that was? Do you remember?
Mid-90s.
Mid-90s?
Yeah, 95, 96.
So about the same time I started, yeah.
So, and then, but like when I started, I didn't have a dog. I just went with other people, Danny Thorne, Glenny, Price, and I hunted for 2 years before I seen a bear in a tree. I mean, back then, the whole month of December, it was hunting, looking for tracks, and we didn't find a bear. A little bit after that, I got my first dog in 98, I think it was, black and tan.
Oh, Kate.
Yep, she was just old Harvey had a litter of pups. Don't know who the dad was, but they talked me into it. I didn't want it. I wanted a walker dog. Ended up with her, and I started coon hunting her first, 7 months old. She was running tree and coon. We switched her to bear, and by a year and a half, she was doing it. I won't say she was an outstanding bear dog, but she did tree some bear by herself. So,
yeah, you know, to go back what you just kind of hit on, that, you know, took 2 years you didn't see a bear in a tree, and you know, for you guys that are listening that are, you know, you're into this less than 10 years. Well, I would say 05 to 08 is when it kind of started booming. You know, we started catching lots of bear. But, I mean, in those early years that you're talking about, I remember hunting with the best bear dog I've ever been in the woods with was old Homer, and catching 5 bear a year.
Yeah.
And those weren't easy to come by. And I really don't, man, I hope we never get back to that, because it's hard to keep dogs, feed them, and keep them all year long to, you know, catch 5 bear a year. It's hard.
Yeah. But, like, back in the mid-90s, I mean, you could bait during training season, so we were running bear, we just weren't treeing them. Till later, late 90s, we started treeing bear. Mm-hmm. It might have been where we started getting some better dogs.
Well, I'd say that helped.
But, like, the guys I hunted with, seemed like they were using the same coon dogs at night, and then when bear season come in, they were using the same dogs to
coon hunt,
to bear hunt.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know I bought the Sam dog off Bert.
Yeah.
And he was out of coon stock.
Yep. Sam and Star and
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I bought both of them. I bought Sam and Star, and she got killed up in New York, and Sam, he got killed right there where we was that Saturday.
Yep.
Right there at that camper. I mean, we got on a big bear, and the snow had iced over, and dogs can't get a grip because they were sliding. And man, the older he got, the rougher he got. He thought he had to tackle it, and it crushed him up inside. I took him to the vet, and they said nothing was broke. And I'll call you in the morning. You come pick him up. Well, she called me at 7:15 the next morning, and I come picked him up in a bag. He got crushed up pretty bad. So, yeah. Well, and then you and I hunted together. In the early 2000s.
Yep.
Because I had Belle and Frosty and.
Yeah, that's when I still had Kate, and I got a Walker female from Joe Powell.
Oh, JP, huh?
Yep, a little Walker female, and I got a pup from Glenn Price.
Mm-hmm. Now, was it kin to Smokey?
It was out of, I can't remember. It was a high tan.
High tan dog, Midnight?
It was out of the first Midnight he had.
Mm-hmm.
He's had two.
That was out of Homer.
Yep, so it was Midnight and Banjo, maybe?
Bandit.
Yep.
Yep. No, that was a good cross.
So,
that's where I think his tubby dog come out of that.
yeah, but I had that high tan, and I ruined her. Cut her loose on a big bear and whooped her, and she wasn't but 8 months old.
Yeah.
But
it's hard. It's hard on them sometimes.
it's one of those learning processes.
Yeah. It takes time, don't it?
No one told you. You just had to learn yourself.
Yeah. Well, Wes had that happen too, year before last. One of his dogs.
I did. I had a camp dog that had happened too. She was really going there, just about 7 months old. I figured nice bear, that would have, been a good easy bear, but actually just the opposite. My old dogs actually took it backwards, and she was the only one that took it by herself, and it didn't end well.
Yeah, I think if they would have been with her, the results would have probably been different.
Yeah, she didn't know how to, hey, this is what we do. She wasn't taught that yet.
Yeah.
So,
well, all right. So, one thing I want to dive into real quick, and we don't have to get in depth about it, but I know that we talk about the pups, the A's, which is what we have. So all three of us are the ones that kept the pups. And Forrest and I had made a trip to New York last year, and we, 9 hours up, 9 hours back. We spent a lot of time talking, and just kind of give you guys a little insight on what we're doing, why we're doing it, and what we hope to accomplish with the breeding these pups. From my perspective, everybody asks me, this is a common question that I get everywhere I go about the Kemp dogs, because I've got 3 of them. Can they trail? Do they have a nose? Well, the first question, I can't really give you an honest answer. Can they trail? Because they're tight. And when I say tight, they're quiet on the ground. But when you say, do they have a nose? I can answer that question, yes. I had an old blue dog last year. Well, I had him for a couple years, but last year I can take and rig tracks with him and they not say a word on the truck and hold him and not turn him loose, and they go catch the bear. So I know they can smell it, so I know they have a good nose. But when you're free casting those dogs, they get gone, they'll take a track, they won't say nothing, and the next thing you know, they're half a mile or a mile in there either running or treed. So the first part of that question, and I can't give you an honest answer because I don't know that I can answer that honestly. But so we took Spook, which is my male Kemp that I have, and we bred him to Forrest's Fancy female. And Fancy's a registered Walker dog. She's bigger in size. She's a big female for a female. And what I really liked about Fancy is year before last, we put her down on a track, and she was young. What, not 2 yet, or maybe not two. Yeah. We put her on a track in the snow that was froze up, and she took that track on her own. She trailed it. She jumped it. She caught it. She had it treed for a little bit. It come out, we're assuming. We wasn't standing there. She made a loop around the mountain, went across the mountain, come back over the mountain, and we run up there to cut her track to see if she was still on it. And sure enough, she's bear tracks in the snow. Her track's right behind it. We ended up packing it up and treeing the bear later in that day. So my goal for my dogs, and you'll hear me talk about it when I start breaking down my pack here in a little while, is I want to put a little bit more trail in them, a little bit more open mouth on the ground. I still want to keep my speed. I've got plenty of grit, and some people may agree or disagree. They stay with the bear. My Kemp dogs do. They don't. Spook don't get hurt. I say that, and he'll get wrecked like Trip did. But Spook's pretty smart about what he does. He bays from the rear end. He stays back, but he stays. So for me, that's what I want. I don't need my dog to go in there and grab him by the ears and hold him down. That's not what I'm looking for in a dog. That's just me. But so Fancy brought a trait to the dog. Brought a trait in that I want to put into my dogs, and that's that trailing and a little bit more open mouth on the ground. So that was my thought process when we discussed breeding to her. Now, Forrest, I'm gonna throw it at you and let you give your input and what you were looking for and what you wanted to accomplish.
Yeah, I mean, just like Heath was saying earlier that year, we put Fancy. I had found another track. Fancy was hitting out of the truck on. We put Fancy and Spook on it, and Waylon. Well, Fancy was the only one opening, but all 3 dogs were on the track. They trailed it down a little ways, and they jumped it. And when they jumped it, we noticed Spook and Waylon shortcutted and was in front of Fancy, but across the road and treated it to a couple hundred yards from the road.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as like what I'm looking for, I had 2 old dogs prior to Fancy that you could cut them loose on the track, and Razor, Reggie, if it took them all day, they'd trail it. Since I lost those dogs, I didn't have a true trail dog. I have dogs that will strike a bear out of the truck and run and tree it, but they're not cold-nosed dogs. Also with me, I was looking for some more speed as far as what Spook had. So when we went to New York, we were talking about dogs, and Heath was telling me what he was wanting. I was telling him what I was looking for. And I just asked him, I was like, well, what do you think about breeding Spook to Fancy? And we talked about it, and he asked me what my other options to breed to, and which my Boone dog. And then I think I could get the speed from Boone just like Spook, but I think Spook has the nose, he just doesn't have the mouth when he's trailing.
Mm-hmm. So our goal was we was going to raise them and distribute them amongst the group that we hunt with. We didn't have any plans of putting them outside the group, keeping an eye on them, and seeing at a year and a half old what we had. So that's kind of why we did what we did. One thing too, I think we should add with Fancy is even when she's running, her head's bobbing. Where Spook runs with his head up in the air, and that's the difference in the speed. I don't think the dog's not capable. I think it's the way she carries herself running.
Yeah, I'm not saying she's slower.
Right.
She is slower a little bit, but I think it's
because of that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's kind of how we ended up breeding the A litter. So that's just kind of a little background on that and why we did what we did, and we're going to continue to pick out the dogs within the group, and I'm not afraid to go outside if I need to pick up something. In fact, the next breeding I have, I've kind of already got it in line, what I'm looking for. And, Forrest has got one of those dogs, and he's got a lot of ability when he puts it into use. So I'm looking. That's kind of the direction I'm looking on one of them. So, Wes, any input?
Nothing.
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 Crickets over there.
Yeah, I know. I mean, this is y'all's baby. I benefited from it so far.
So let's. So I'm just going to put you on the spot again. Let's start breaking down. Just to start breaking down training season. So August was hot. We had more water this year, rain in August, and like the first weekend of September we've had, and I can't remember when. The food crop was good. All the fruit trees were bearing. The grapes were thick. So that's something we haven't seen. And now that we're into, well, it's October now, but, even in September, the acorns started falling, and, white oaks and chestnut oaks were everywhere. They are everywhere. So just to give you a little background on, the areas that we're hunting, there is plenty of food. So won't you break down August to September on your end, and we'll just kind of go through it with each of us and then put it together.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I spent more time hunting in August than I did September. Like I said, I kind of done it backwards. I should have picked the cooler month of September than August. For me, I didn't do typically what I would have done prior to August. Yeah, I didn't spend a lot of time with the dogs beforehand. In the years past, I've treadmilled. I've tried to get them in a better shape, a heat shape. I actually had one of my Kemp dogs, Koa, had a heat stroke the very first week of August. So, it was hot, and I had dogs that were fat and out of shape, and August wasn't for me. I started a few tracks, and, between Heath and Sam, they were finishing. For a while, I could not get on the finishing end of a track. Started them, just couldn't see it. I couldn't finish it with mine. They get scattered out, and it was just it was a tough training season for me, but a little bit of an eye opener on into the rest of it. So,
well, and two, you worked a lot more in September than.
Yeah, I did it backwards.
Yeah.
So next year I'll fix that.
Right. Forrest, I know job responsibilities, kids, award ceremonies, weddings. You didn't get to hunt a whole lot.
No, fire department. So.
Yeah.
But, I only got to hunt on weekends. I didn't get to hunt during the week or week afternoons like I had in the past. And, well, you can see. I hunted. I was running bear, just like Wesley. Wasn't catching them, wasn't treeing them. Just took it was my fault for not putting the dogs in the woods as much as they need to be, but we ran bear. I did.
Life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I've been there, done that too many times, and I'm very fortunate. I hunted on my days off in August. After Labor Day, I didn't work anymore.
I asked him actually there, what was it? So Saturday.
Yeah.
He said, yeah, I got to go back to work tomorrow. And, I asked him if he needed directions. I know he hadn't been there in half a year. So.
Yeah, I'm pretty fortunate. But, yeah, so I did. I got to hunt a lot. So like I said, September, I pretty much hunted every day. Maybe a couple of Sundays we didn't hunt. I know that one Sunday I hunted with Forrest. That's when my truck took a dump on me and I have it hauled back.
Chevys.
Yeah, it's running now. She's up and running. I done put 1,000 miles on that transmission.
Fantastic.
It is. It runs like new money. It changes gears better. Don't smell no grease coming out from underneath. The worst torture. Let me just tell you this: the worst torture was having to drive a Yoder around for 6 days. I felt like I was in a sardine can.
You didn't have to hunt at all.
Well, it was either not hunt or drive a Toyota. So
you sucked it up.
Jacob Campbell, I drove a Toyota, and I will say that I am glad to have my Chevy back.
He loved it.
Yeah, it was rough. But yeah, so I got to hunt a lot. I think, I mean, we actually treed one the first morning of training season. Was you not? No, yeah, neither one of y'all were there. It was a Monday, that's why. I was off for some reason. I don't know why.
Imagine that.
But yeah, we treated one the first morning, but I actually got to, go to New York and hunt a couple days, got my dogs pointed in the right direction. I always think that helps when I do that. And then, hey man, it got hot. We got outran a lot. Pulled the dogs off crossing roads just to keep them from having heat strokes. So most of the time by 9 or 10 o'clock, I was done and headed home. I just, for me, the heat is a big factor. And, I just, I don't want to torture my dogs. So we pulled the dogs off a lot of times. And
that's what caused to me, you were pretty firm on that 9, 10 o'clock. And that day was about 10:45 or so. I said, Sam, what do you want to do? I turned them loose, and the next thing I know, there come Koa with a heat stroke, and it was just too hot.
I mean, man, when that, when the humidity gets up and that sun starts beating down, I mean it is, and I know I get grief over it sometimes for not turning mine loose, but yeah, I mean I've had a dog do what, I mean Sky, that female that I had, I had to carry her 1.5 miles out of the woods one day, and after it took me a year to get her back.
Yeah, I expect the same. We'd run her a little bit back in these colder mornings here, just youth days and late training season, but I won't push her in the heat anymore.
Yeah.
I just don't think she can handle it.
Yeah. And like I said, after I carried Sky out that day, I told myself, I said, don't ever do this again. It's not worth it. So that's kind of I know sometimes we get excited and carried away and dump them anyway, but I'm very mindful of the heat. And I watch the heat index and I watch the humidity levels a lot. So yeah, so I got to hunt a lot. August, like I said, we got outran a lot. We pulled dogs off bear because of the heat a lot. And then Labor Day, we all hunted Labor Day and didn't do nothing. Did we even tree a bear? Yeah. Sam and Garrett did one evening. Oh yeah, we did. We treed that other one on the same side as your cabin, up a creek at the end of it. So you weren't there.
No, I think I dove hunted.
Yeah. Y'all were dove hunting, and they wonder why they dog's not in shape.
Yeah, it's too hot. I mean, I worry about this heat. The man said it. I'm
not a rocket scientist, but I think that's probably one of the reasons right there.
Dove's almost as good as bears, so it is what it is.
You get you some bird dogs, you'd be better off.
I've got some dogs that chase birds, deer, coyotes, and coons, and sometimes bear.
We caught 2 bear that weekend. Sorry, and then then everybody kind of went back to work, and we got to hunting. And a couple weeks there, we had 2 pretty good weeks, and then I went through a dry spell. I know Wesley kept calling me a crybaby, but I was running bear. We were seeing them. They were crossing the roads. The dogs were right on them, and they were getting over in some rough country. And we wasn't treeing them, and we wasn't getting them stopped. And that went on for about a week and a half, and it's getting pretty frustrating. And then we caught a good bear on the ground. Me and Hot Rod did. I got one of my other camp dog, Trip, got him wrecked. In fact, it's mid-October and still hadn't had him back out. And I don't know. Probably will have to wait till December and see what he does. But so I got him wrecked. Got holes in another one. So I went down a couple dogs for a couple. Yeah, he's still out, and then she was out for a good week and a half. And treat a couple more bear. I moved locations. That's what I did. We went to the other side. And the very first day I was on the other side, we ended up treeing 2 that day. You were there that day, Wes. Of course, that was towards the end of the season. And so we had, the dogs did pretty good. And then the early season was in. So one thing that I learned from my dogs during this training season is, and this is where I want to improve my pack. or my dogs, period. My goal is to have 4 dogs that catch bear by themselves. I've got 2 that catch bear by themselves. But, again, they're tight-mouthed. They'll drift off, and you can't get stuff with them. And they don't need the help, but I like to have a couple extra dogs. I like to have four dogs. That's where 4 or 5 dogs. But I've learned that my dogs are probably medium nosed, because all the tracks that I'm rigging, I'm catching. So, in my mind, being rational and reasonable is when they're coming off the truck, screaming, you pretty much know you've got a red hot track. I can't tell you at no point in time this training season that my dogs opened, I put them down, and they went to trailing. Now, they did have to go 300 and 400 yards sometimes to find those tracks. But then when they opened, they got to moving and gone. So, if I'm just being honest with myself, I've got medium-nosed dogs. I'm okay with that right now because it's working, but I want dogs that'll trail. I want dogs that'll get down and grub a track up and get it jumped and then catch it. So that's kind of one of the things that I want to make better in what I've got. I'm okay with my speed. Like I said, I've got plenty enough grit for what I want, or stay power, stick power, however you want to say it. I just need to improve. I need to improve my nose a little bit, is what I think. And I'm hoping that the fancy pups, I got Attica, Axe, and Allie. I'm hoping I get a little. If I can just get a little bit of that at a time, I'll be happy. So yeah, that's kind of where I was at with mine. I didn't catch as many bears I thought we should have for what we ran, in my opinion. I mean, like I said, for almost that 2 weeks there, we were running bear every day and not catching them. And, I wouldn't have said they were bear if we weren't seeing them. Like, if we weren't seeing the bear, crossing the roads like you did that day, and, I wouldn't, I don't know. I wouldn't be as aggravated if I didn't know for sure that's what they were doing. So I want to add some nose to mine. And Wes, you said something about your dogs splitting up. Tell us a little bit what your thought process is, what's going on there.
I'm really not sure. After, we've all talked, and in my mind, I know they're leaving out of there, and they're right. It's a different sound for mine, just like it is everybody's off the box. I can tell, it's BS, and I can tell when it's a bear. There's a different noise. But they'll run and run and run, and all of a sudden they're splitting. I don't know whether they're running to find a hotter bear track. I don't know whether they're running to find a coyote, a deer. I don't know. I know that I've got a deer bumping problem. And I know that, the camp dog I talked about earlier, I just got her back out, and I know she's bumping coons. So I've definitely got problems. I hope that I can figure them out in this off season. And one of my big problems is my dogs are striking dogs, and I've got to fix it. It's the easiest thing to fix because we all have dogs and we can set them up for that. But I've got to get that straightened out as well. So
the deer's an easy fix.
Yeah, dogs are an easy fix.
We've talked about that. That's not a.
Yeah.
I mean, when you go out of here tonight, you're going to see 10 or 12. Deer's an easy fix. But why? And I threw this out to these coyote hunters, a couple weeks ago. Why is it that the dogs are barking on other dogs? Now, I have a theory.
What's your theory? 'Cause I've got one.
Well, let's hear yours first.
I think that we constantly pack these dogs, and dogs are crossing, and we're constantly packing them on tracks that, in their mind, oh no, here we go. Let's bar it because, I think they associate the excitement with dogs crossing the road. I think they put it together. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, and you're on track exactly what I'm thinking. But again, this is where I feel like we have to get you have to get off and hunt by yourself. Because if you're constantly packing, then you're going to constantly have the dogs doing that. And we all know, the first 2 or 3 dogs are doing the work. When everything else is coming in, they may be smelling that bear, but eventually you get 5 and 6 and 7 dogs back. Then you're getting nothing but dog odor. Yeah. So dogs are running the dogs, and they know if I run that dog long enough, the bear's gonna be at the end of it. So I think you're on track with that, and I think that it's an easy fix. So that's just my thought process. But
yeah, I mean the coyotes, that would be our toughest. But what, along those lines, how do you associate the coyotes with the dogs? I mean, you're striking coyotes, you're striking dogs. How do you not break them off of both?
I don't know. I mean, coyotes my problem too. I mean, I may have a dog, bump a deer or whatever, but I don't even give it a second thought, because the next opportunity I get, I work on it, and then the next opportunity I get, I work, and I get those opportunities almost daily.
Oh yeah.
So I don't think the deers. I don't even give the deer a second thought. The coyotes are my problem, and I mean,
you see those once or twice a year.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Well, when we get into the early season, I'm pretty sure Spook caught one.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a different bark. He has an angry, and I mean, when I say angry, it's angry bark when he opens on a coyote. And if he rigs one, I know, because that bark comes out, and you've seen me drive on. Mm-hmm. When I hear it, man, I don't even slow down, just go on.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, why don't you put him down and, work on him then? Well, I know
sure,
it's what I know. It's like I want to see it to know it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the coyote's a problem, and I'm hoping this winter we have a little bit of snow on, and I can really work on that, because we just don't see the coyotes. I mean, I seen one last year crossing the road. I actually had the dogs on the rig, and I worked on them then. Like I mean, that was a perfect scenario. I got them and worked on them, but that was one time the whole year. So, what do you think, Forrest? What's yours? Where are you at? What are you thinking?
I mean, my dogs, I don't think they're striking junk off the truck, but when they're loose, I think the trail dogs are trailing, but if there's something else with them, they lose interest and they're bumping deer or something else. Because, like, I noticed Darby or JJ, they'll come out running or junk, and Boone and Waylon will tell on them. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're not saying anything. Waylon will come on through with them, but when he hits the road, he's got his head down. He knows it wasn't right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that. I don't think Boone and Waylon striking junk off the truck as much as the younger dogs. But like you're saying, I don't know for sure. And it goes back to what we were talking about early season. I held my older dogs and cut JJ loose, and we ended up running the bear.
Yeah.
I mean, we done it. So,
yeah,
does he have a colder nose than my old dogs? I haven't had the opportunity to say yes or no.
But I think you got to give a little background on it too. JJ will go. He'll go 300 or 400 yards.
Yeah.
Boone and Waylon don't like to get far off the road.
Nah. This during youth seasons, the first time that I've seen them this year leave and go find it.
Mm-hmm.
August, September, I'd strike a bear out of the truck. They'd make a 100-yard circle and come back. I'd cut JJ loose and he'd go find it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and just so you guys know, JJ is a great-great-grandson of Ring, who would go a half a mile to find a track. So that's some of that genetics working in him.
I mean, that goes back to what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I want a dog that will hunt like an old coon dog, make that 600-700 yard circle.
Yeah.
Like when they strike off a truck, I want them to go find it. And I feel like with Boone and Waylon, like Wesley was saying, we're striking these bear off the truck, and red hot. So when they come off the truck, they're ready to run, and they don't find it.
Mm-hmm.
They just jump back on the truck, want to go on down the road and try to find another one.
I think some of that's on us too, though. I was telling Heath about that. I've got Ann, she's probably 8, 9 years old, and this year's the hardest I've ever seen her run, and it's the farthest she's ever got off the road to go find a track. She said nothing for 500-600 yards and was gone. When I first started, I had such a mentality in my mind to not let nothing happen to her, not let her get hurt, because I thought a lot of her, but I probably hurt that dog more than I did help her. So for years, she wouldn't leave the road, and this year, I've just let her go, and she's run better.
Well, I think too. I mean, I was down east last week before last, and BB and I had this conversation on the same thing. Is I think where I'm not coon hunting my young dogs like I used to, that I'm not giving them that opportunity to go hunting. And when we walk hunt, I prefer my dogs to be 100, 200 yards, because once they start venturing out here, it's harder and harder to get dogs to them if they cross a ridge or go down in a holler. So I'm not saying I keep my dogs on a rein, but at the same time I do. And I think I see that. Well, Spook and Kate will go, but I feel like where I'm not coon hunting my young dogs and getting them started like I used to, because my dogs used to go, that my dogs aren't hunting as wide. And I think I agree with Wesley. I think some of that's on me, with what I'm doing and it's how we hunt. It's how we hunt. It's what we're doing, and the dogs get tuned into that, and that's kind of what they do. So anyway, I mean, I think it's a part of it myself. So, anything else on the recap of training season?
Can't catch them. They're so fast.
We got bears with Nikes in the foothills of Virginia. We are chasing bears with Nikes. Yeah. I think Nike sponsored them. Actually, I think I seen one with a tank top run by one day.
Yeah, I saw the same one.
I can get someone to fund me for 2 months. I'll hunt and not work.
Well, you probably got the time to take off.
Getting off is a problem.
Yeah. I mean, and gosh, I mean, I'm fortunate, but we're short-handed, and it may change for me too. I've taken December. I just got to work a couple of days in December because we can't hunt on Sundays, so I work on Sundays. makes it easy.
Shocker.
Yeah. So early season, early season. Tuesday. What was Tuesday? So.
Yeah, dog struck here on the road.
Yep.
Mine did. JJ went 400 yards down there, never opened, come back. Greg went down into the hole there, and yeah, I mean, he went 600-700 yards before smoking. They end up striking it and got it jumped, ran it down in the holler there, actually treated. He got almost to him and come out. And when it turned and went down the creek, then turned and come back up, Greg said that someone else's dogs had gotten in there. Mm-hmm. And when it came up by me, I packed Smokey and Ruger, and they crossed there at the head. We packed.
Is that where you packed, Wes?
Yeah, we all rolled in there.
Yeah, Wesley packed. I packed with him.
Oops.
Another group realized that they were probably in the wrong. They started catching their dogs.
Yeah.
And then.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, it's, we don't own that mountain, that particular mountain. We don't own anything. You all pay, you buy a license, you have gear, you do things the same way we do. But, respect goes a long way when it comes to that.
Yeah.
We would never go somewhere and kill us out anyway, but we would never go and just step on toes.
Yeah. No, I mean, we kind of hunt the same areas. I mean, we don't venture out a whole lot. We got 2 different mountain ranges we hunt, and that's kind of where we stay because other groups hunt other areas, and we're not trying to, we're not trying to do. Then it just becomes even a worse cluster. Everybody's mad. You're packing my bear. You're doing this. Why are you over here? And yeah, so yeah, Tuesday. So Tuesday morning, I come out with you and ended up striking one right out from you.
Yeah, right there above where we were camping.
Yeah. And I got really, I mean, they pick on me, but the dogs struck. They went 190 yards before they ever said a word. And at 260, they were treed. And everybody made me go in there by myself. So it took me about an hour to get up out of there.
Yeah, sorry, I had it confused there. Tuesday was what I was thinking about. You're talking about, by that place.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's a reason I sent him alone. You know, I told him, I texted him, I said, I don't know whether to be happy for you or feel bad. I felt more bad and happy at the same time because I knew he was over there and I knew what he was having to deal with. So
Oh, gosh. Yeah,
that's the only time he wasn't talking.
Couldn't catch my breath. That's why.
There you go.
But got the dogs off that tree. Little old boar bear, probably 100, 120, 130 pounds maybe. And he was on private property. So, you know, wouldn't have took him anyway. Come back around the mountain and Forrest and them I guess they had bumped one out of there. And I rigged another one and put on.
That's what I was talking about by the camp, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I thought it was on Tuesday.
Yeah,
Sometimes
that was
clash.
Tuesday. Yeah.
Yeah, they clash sometimes.
Yeah, so I put on that one, and they went 4.5 miles in there and decided to get treed in the roughest place you could get. So
it's so pretty in there.
Had to. Me and Ben done some speed walking out to AT, and it took us an hour and 40 minutes to get in there to them.
You used to do it faster.
Yeah. When I was your age.
In 2000.
Yeah.
Had an anchor with them this time.
Yeah. There we made fun of him. What 2 hours later we were in there with him?
Yeah, y'all were hollering for me to help.
Yeah.
So we got in there, and it was a smaller bear, and we made so my buddy was with me from New York, and we made the decision that we did not want to have to take the dogs out, walk back in there, and then drag it out. So it was treed and freed. Just not going to do it. And then
It was a better bear.
do what?
I said that bear was better, size-wise.
Than the first one?
Yeah.
I thought that until it turned around, so I don't know. But then as we were coming away from a tree, Wesley hollered and said they were coming towards me. So we tried to get up and out of that hole, so we could help them, but they were still 7/10 of a mile from us, and they turned and went up the mountain and over. So we were out. I mean, we were out of it. So we walked back out of there. That was Tuesday. And then Wednesday, we went to over into another little area, and I'm pretty sure Spook was running junk. I don't know. There's dogs everywhere, and
Another group in there.
Well, we didn't know they were in there.
Yeah.
They come in from over the top on the other side, and then Greg and Hunter had dogs running, and they said they crossed the road that I come in on, which they meant the main road, not the road I'd walked in on. So I hear two dogs coming, and I had two young dogs, so I packed it, and they turned and went up the mountain, and then, I don't know, a few minutes later, here come the other dogs, and I'm like, well, wait a second. Them ain't our dogs. So it was the other group's dogs. It was two of their dogs. And somehow, Houdini and Hart picked up dogs going up the mountain. They got Kate coming there somewhere. Mm-hmm. And Ben's dogs actually crossed in front of me. I saw them cross. And they were actually in front of the other group's dogs.
Yeah, that's what I saw crossing the road that day.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
And
may have been their bear, and
it was.
Your dogs may have shortcut them, but
yep.
They all ended up there. So
yeah, I mean, it was definitely, I wouldn't have packed them if I didn't know it was them. I thought it was Greg and Hunter's, and
yeah.
So yeah, we ended up treeing that bear 3.5 miles out the top. So we drive around, and Wes and Hot Rod were already on the top. They actually seen them come across and ended up getting to the tree, and so I done another speed walk out to AT to get in there, and Wes was like, "You're coming in here?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I turned them loose. I'm gonna come and get them." So we went in there and got them, and we grabbed the other guys' dogs too. They were coming. They were just way behind, and took them out. And again, it was on private property.
Yeah, that was the best moment of my life, Forrest. Walked into a tree that was slick.
Yeah.
No, the bear was there. I really wanted to tell him it was slick. I love it when he gets mad. His blood pressure goes crazy.
That's why I'm on medicine now.
Yeah.
Y'all killing me. Yeah, so that was that day, and like I said, it was on private property, and it was a small sow bear.
Yeah, right on the corner though. I mean, it couldn't have been 20 foot on private, but yeah.
Yeah. So that kind of wrapped up early season for us. I mean, we caught 5 bear, and I mean, nothing.
Well, right after that,
Yeah.
we left. We left that tree where you come in and got them. And me
Oh,
and
you
Sam,
caught another one.
Fuzzy,
Yeah.
down the bottom.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was about it. Another small bear. 200, 300 yards. That was over.
Yeah. So anything to add to early season?
That's about it.
Yeah. And then, of course, Youth Day come around, which was, yeah. So Youth Day, you can hunt on Saturday, you can't hunt on Sundays. And, yeah, Forrest's dog was down in the holler trailing, so I went around and sat there for a while. And then when I seen he was coming out of there, now I'd done been up the road, back down the road. Yeah, so I'd done been up and down. I'd done traveled that one area twice. But, of course, an hour and a half went by. And about where I'd sit there waiting on him. So when I come back around the road, dog struck and put on it. They went up the mountain, turned and went left-handed. Made a big loop, come in there really low, actually, real close to the campground. Tried to cross the road, and some dude come in there in this big old Dodge truck with a 30-foot camper, blocked the road, turned the bear, pushed it on down around the mountain, got real low on the mountain, which is kind of not normal for the area that we hunt. And then it started back up the mountain, and Forrest was going out the top trying to make sure that it didn't go over, but it turned and come right back the same path that it took out of there. And Garrett was able to pack it, and Hot Rod packed it. And yeah, it was a small, I mean, it was 80 pound bear. And so anyway, we treated it and took pictures, and that was about it. I mean, wasn't a whole lot to it. And then you got on another one later on.
Yeah, when I went out the top road, dog struck. I went on and tried to get above yours to make sure they didn't cross and go over the north. Went to the tree, took the puppies in to the tree where you treed, and came out, and they didn't get to see it, but they smelt it. And back to the truck, I told Heath I struck up there, and he said, well, why don't you take 2 dogs and see if what they'll do. We ended up putting Waylon Boone down, and they went over on the north, and 300-400 yards, had it jumped, and it stayed over
2 more hours.
Yep.
Yeah.
Went all the way to the hard road and turned and come well within 300 yards of us up top. And then made the second loop.
Well, Wesley got on me because I was up there hollering. He said, you turned it. I didn't hear him. So if I'd have heard him, I wouldn't have been hollering, but I didn't hear him.
I don't think that bear is going to come out. No, I don't think he was going to come out.
I don't think he had intentions of it.
Nah.
Not going right back into that timber cut.
I mean, he came right up through them rocks and then turned and went right back.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of places they cross on that north, and that just wasn't one of them, but you never know.
Well, that big ledge is right there where we were parked.
Yeah.
It's right under that. I mean, there's a huge cliff in there. So, yeah, so that's kind of, I mean, we, like I said, we caught enough bear to keep you satisfied during training season. Early season, like I said, we just didn't catch anything that we wanted to take. We had targeted 2 bear. We'd found 2 bear during training season that we were targeting, and we was hunting those areas. It just happened and we wasn't catching those. So that's just kind of how it worked out. And, our group is very conservative. Wesley said it, that we're more about conservation than killing. And as much as, I'd like to, kill a bear or two out to my dogs. You know, when you kill that sow, you're hurting your hunting 5 years from now. You're not hurting it today, but 5 years from now you are. And, you know, especially in the places we hunt, because we hunted that area the whole month of September. And, you know, Hot Rod and I talked about it. We think that there was only probably 6 to 8 bear in that area. And when I say that area, I mean, it's a pretty big plot. And it's not like, you know, it's a 200-acre lot. It's thousands of acres. And that month we hunted it, we were already catching the same bear twice, a couple times. We caught 2 different bear twice for sure. And then the other bear, so, we figured there was only 6 or 8 bear in that area. So that is what it is. So anyway, that's just kind of how it turned out. You know, sometimes that's just how it works. You guys thinking different?
No, I mean, I think maybe, hopefully, December, things will change. There's so much food in the mountains now. I mean, they just don't have to move. I mean, you could almost walk by a bear with dogs, and they don't have to go anywhere. I mean,
No.
The striker from the roads, the rigging, I mean, that was almost non-existent unless someone was in the woods pushing bear out.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, the last 2 weeks of season, we were walking.
yeah, I mean, and the ones that actually struck from the road were most likely because someone was down. Well, you know, we pretty much know that it was, but
Yeah.
they just don't have to move.
Right. Well, hopefully with the food, they put on 50 pounds, and everybody, thinks that's crazy. But when Tech was doing their study, which was 93 to 2003, they had tagged a bear in a dumpster in an area that we hunted, and that bear weighed like 75 pounds. We killed that bear the first day of bear season in December. Now, they tagged it in July, and when we killed that bear, it was 163. Put almost 100 pounds on. And if I hadn't seen it and been there I had a good relationship with the biologist at that time at Tech, I would have said you were crazy.
Yeah.
But sure enough, that's exactly what happened. So, I mean, that's a lot of weight.
Yeah, they definitely got the potential to do that in Southwest Virginia this year. I don't know what the rest of Virginia looks like, but it's loaded here.
Yeah. So before we wrap this up, let's do a little pup update. I didn't hunt mine much in August. In fact, I don't know that I took them much at all in August. Well, I did in September because when we camped that weekend of Labor Day. I took the one. I had her tied out. So, I have 3, and I just started rotating mine out. I take one today, one tomorrow, one the next day, and then just start all over. I was Attica, which is attitude. She was pretty lucky because most of the days that she went, we were treeing bears. So she got to walk into 3, maybe 4 trees. And again, she's 6 months old, or not quite 6 months old at that point in time. And she's just trying to figure it out. All the dogs are barking and carrying on, and she's, you can tell, she's like, what's going on? She can see her body language, and she's watching the dogs, and she's trying to figure it out. Axe never got a chance to get into a bear tree during the whole training season. But halfway through September, or early September, he was babbling behind dogs. And so I put him up. I'm like, I'm going to fix this before I bring him out. It's something that's a pet peeve of mine. I can't stand it. So I put him up and started just hunting Allie and Attica. Well, Allie got into 2 trees. In fact, the early kill season, she was on both of those trees on Tuesday. She walked in with me. The first tree, she treed a little bit because she could see it. It was sitting right there where we were on a cliff. The second tree was the base of the tree was covered in laurels and bushes, and you couldn't see up it unless you got way back. So she didn't do anything there. But Attica, towards the day that we treed the 2 bear, towards the end of season, she actually made her first race. I had put the dogs out, and I dropped the tailgate, and it didn't have doors on it because I was borrowing a box. And so she come out and then went up the road, and she come back, and I'm like, well, okay. Well, the next thing I know, she was gone. And, she ended up catching, she almost caught the dog. Of course, they only went a mile. It was right at a mile. And when we got into the tree, she was, barking up a little bit. But Forrest said it already. What impressed me about her on this day is she wasn't just barking to be barking. She was using her nose. She was working the tree. She was standing in the air and pushing her nose up as far as she could get it, trying to figure that stuff out. Now, was she toenailed into the tree? Absolutely not. But she was barking. Well, on the second bear, they actually caught it on the ground and had it bayed for just a few minutes before it treed. And when I got into that tree, she was treeing a little bit harder. We got all the older dogs tied back. And when I say, we just had a handful of dogs. It wasn't many. Got them tied back, and Wesley and I fooled with her in August. She was working that tree. She was smelling it. She was up. She was sticking her nose up in the air, and she'd sit back and bark. She was putting the odor with the tree, and I really liked that. Like for me, and especially like in my detection work with the police dogs, odor pays, and she was putting that part of it together. So that was really encouraging for me. I went down east and hunted with BB and Doug, and Axe actually done the best of the 3 down there. He stayed on a bear on the ground for about an hour and 15 minutes. The first one he's ever seen, he stayed with it. So the shotgun, when they got to shooting at it in the swamp, that startled him. But I'm good with what he did. I'm like I said, 7 months old, never seen a bear. He's been hunted less than the other 2. He's had less exposure than the other 2, and he did better. So, Allie is still not, she's not come around yet. She goes with you. She acts good. She don't loose bark. She loads. She likes to be out, but she's not really doing what Attica or Axe has done at this point. And in Youth Day, so I had Addie and Axe, and they had that bear bait up right beside the road, and I put them down. With all the traffic, Axe, he jumped right back in the box, so I just shut him up. Attica went right in there, and when we got some dogs, we got a couple of dogs pulled off, and then they went around the hill there and treed, and she was in there treeing on this tree. So it's a good sign. It don't mean much for the long run, but it started in the right direction with her. I do like what I seen from Axe. Allie I'm just going to put her up a little bit and let her mature. Like I said, she likes being in the woods. She likes to go, but she hadn't put anything together yet. Like I said, she barked at the one tree in that early season, but that's the only time. And like I said, that bear was sitting on the bottom limb, 10 foot above her head. It was kind of hard not to. So that's kind of where mine's at. Wes, Forrest?
Yeah, with mine, I got Ari and Ash. Ash is more like yours is doing right now. He hasn't matured as much as the others have. He loads in the truck. He wants to go. He's a little behind. As far as Ari, she's doing everything. She's going. She hasn't seen a bear, but I was telling Heath this story. I walked in about a mile and a half to catch a dog one morning, me and Addison, and we walked in, was coming back out, and Ari kept throwing her nose up, and she'd go 150 yards from the trail, like she was going to take off on something, and then she'd come back, and then she'd go to the other side with her nose up in the air. And I thought it was interesting because the dog that we had went and caught, he was just loose walking with us. He was following her, thinking that she was going to take off on a track or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but she was like hunting, which was pretty surprising to me. That's 6, 7 months old there. But wasn't able to get her into a tree during youth season or youth day there. They treed that bear, and right, Addison let her in, and right when Addison got there, the bear come out, but grabbed her and took her down there, and she had her nose up in the air. She opened a couple times on the track, so it sparked her interest.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and she didn't see it.
She
it was
didn't see
gone
it,
before she got there.
And
Mm-hmm.
I walked her down through there, and she was whining and barking a little bit on the track, so
Mm-hmm.
promising.
Yeah. I mean, and like I said, let's go back to Ash and Allie. When, if y'all heard the very first time I talked about them dogs, I told you they were the even kill dogs. I'm seeing now, and it depends on how they turn out. Let's see how they develop. It's definitely, unless they flip a switch here soon, they're going to be the slow progressors. So that's a learning thing for me. Actually breaking this down and watching. I've never kept a whole litter before, so I seen those as pups. Puppies. They were the even keel. Like I said, they weren't over the top. And now looking at it, it may be I don't want to say a deficiency. It may be a downfall. We'll have to see how they develop, see how they progress. But Allie's definitely not showing the interest that Axe and Attica are on my end.
Yeah, honestly, first and foremost, as far as that whole litter goes, you did a fantastic job raising them. It just seemed really natural for me. I've had August ever since, but she's got brain. She's got a lot. She's loading by herself, and that's not something that I really fool with a lot with her. It's just kind of just a natural for her. But for August, you were talking about the second tree that day. They couldn't really see that bear. You're talking about a couple dogs with it on the ground. They couldn't really see that bear, but yours, I think that was probably the second bear for her, and the actual first for August. So then that's when we fooled with them a little bit afterwards, and the second time after this 3-day kill season for me, it was that Wednesday. I had August running loose, just letting her do puppy things, and they jumped that bear, and then, like I said, went about 300 yards, and she went and was there, and I was excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
For as long as I let her, she would toenail into a tree, not a tree dog, but she was. The thing that helped her was she finally put that odor with that sight, because again, that bear wasn't 10 foot off the ground on a big leader and was moving a lot, and that's what I really saw and heard the change with August. Her growl, her bark was different than the first time. She was just bigger barking because everybody was, but this time she put the sight with the smell.
So I want to talk about that bark real quick, and then we'll wrap this up. So I was in D.C. at a SWAT TAC school, canine SWAT school, and I can't remember the guy's last name. His name was Tony from Baltimore, and he run their canine program. And I had Vice up there, which is my shepherd, and we were doing building searches. So, the suspect's hiding in a room, the dog goes in, and Vice was barking, and he looked at me and he said, "He ain't ready." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Listen at him." I'm like, "I am listening at him." He said, "He's barking." And he said he don't have confidence. So he took me to the side. He showed me what he meant. When he brought that guy out in a suit and Vice seen it, the bark completely changed. It went from a whiny to it flipped. And Tony picked that up, taught me something. I pay a lot of attention, and especially with these young dogs. I want to hear that confidence. I want to hear that they're not booger barking. You know, we all hear it. You hear it. Maybe you're just not picking it up or noticing it. But what I learned from that day from Tony was valuable to me, and how he showed me how Vice was very unsure of himself, what he was doing. And then when I put him in a situation that he'd been in before, it completely changed his voice. Something that he had done. He'd hit the suit, hit the suit, hit the suit, hit the suit. The dog knew that. And anyway, that was something that I picked up. We can always listen to our dogs' barks and listen to what they're telling us. And it's hard when you've got, 5, 6, 7, 8 other dogs around to pick those dogs out. But like the day that, everybody pulled the old dogs off and left, and me and you just stayed there, those are the times that you can actually hear. Close your eyes and listen. Listen to that dog. Listen to what he's telling you, especially the young dogs, not the old dogs. But just like, just like when we was down east and the dogs were bait up in that thick mess. I mean, the dogs sound different. When they can't see, the visibility's low, and you got a 500-pound bear standing. My dogs have never seen a 500-pound bear. I mean, a bear's a bear. It is what it is. But at the same time, I mean, that's got to be intimidating. Yeah. I mean,
we're running an 80-pound bear all year long.
That's what I'm saying. 80 to 125, 30 pounds is what we've been seeing the majority of the time. We caught 2 bear that was bigger than that, and that's it. But yeah, just that's just something to take note of, listen to, and learn from your dogs.
One other thing, you and I were talking. Like, these puppies have been with the same 2 or 3, 4 dogs growing up. Mm-hmm. And you go and pack a puppy to 8 or 10 dogs. They're all excited to get in there, but with the old dogs, they might be overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And something else I had real quick. During that early season, when I went to that second tree, which was 4.5 miles in, Allie went in with me. And we got about halfway back out, and Ben and I we sat down and take a break. Y'all went over. I think they caught y'all's dogs, and we were just taking our time walking back out to the truck. And when I sat down, she curled up at my feet. And it dawned on me at that point in time that here I've got a 6.5-month-old pup that physically development, that was very hard on her. She had run off the mountain that morning, or she went off the mountain that morning with me and back up, and then she'd went in, and I'm like, you know what, throwing. I don't think any of my 3 puppies, and they're leggy. I mean, they're leggy puppies. They got good gear under them. I don't think they can make a 10-mile race at this age. I just don't think they can.
I don't think you should expect them to.
Well, and I don't. Yeah. But that day, was sitting there and watching her come and the other dogs was fine. Like they were standing there with us, and they was like, okay, what are we doing? Yeah. She was not. And that kind of, me and Ben had that conversation while we were sitting there. She's like, physically, she's still not developed enough, and she's burning a lot of energy because she's still growing. So she's kind of combating 2 different things at one time. So that was another thing that just kind of throw out there, maybe a learning thing for everybody.
I think because they're so easy starting, per se, that you want to let them push. But, again, they're 7 months old. They're young dogs. But I think we see that they're doing things early, so we want to let them go. But, again, they're pups.
Yeah, I'm not in a rush with mine. I mean, December rolls around. In fact, I hadn't even planned on hunting mine until December. And I was like, well, get them used to riding around. And they've stayed in the box a lot.
Well, I'm the same, man. I held mine just, I listen to you and talk about maturity. Forest is the same. We rode them around some, but until September, I never ran.
Heath and myself, we both have ruined good dogs at a young age by pushing them too hard.
Mm-hmm.
He's always said it. You can't put a baby in the ring with Mike Tyson.
No. And both the bear we got down east that was on the ground, none of them were mean, which makes a big difference.
Yeah, good training bear.
Yeah. They just walked along. Dogs respected them. It was what it was. So let's wrap this up. my goals and expectations for the end of the year is I want to get my dogs down and get them trailing a little more. We're gonna have to bust a brush in December. There's no question about it, and we usually do anyway. But I'd like to get my dogs down and trailing a little bit, and I still got some kinks to work out. Some things that I've seen in the last couple of weeks that are, I don't want to say concerning, but they're in the front of my mind. They're not in the back of it. Like I need to figure out what's going on here. Get all my dogs healthy. I want to try trip. In fact, probably the end of this month, I'm gonna get him out and just see how he moves and if I can road him a little bit and see how he operates. And then December, I'm probably going to take him into a tree or two just to see what happens because he got wrecked. I don't know. He may not go back. I don't know. So that's my goal is to catch bear and have a good time and not be so stressed out.
Yeah. For me, it's trying to get some more consistency. I've got to do some work in the off season. I'm planning on, doing a little bit of coon hunting with Willow and August and trying to get them in the right direction, but mainly getting these 4-year-old dogs just consistent. So that's my goals. Maybe end of December we'll do another podcast. Hopefully it sounds different. Yeah,
we're gonna wrap it up, first of the year after season, and like I said, we'll tell about the pups again. Everybody, I want, everybody wants to know what they're doing. I get text messages all the time, and just kind of see how the pack is, and it's like we said in the podcast, the perfect dog, which meant no perfect dog. You got to be honest with yourself. You got to be honest about your dogs. You got to set goals up, and how you gonna meet those goals, and if you can't meet those goals, then what are you gonna do to get there? That's kind of how I operate. Forrest, what about you?
Get these pups on some bear.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys coming over and sitting down and talking and throwing things out there. And hopefully we will be back in January and with some good news updates. Hopefully. So until next time, don't forget to teach, train, and learn.